And we live. Welcome to another episode of Streezy Sport. And today I'm joined by Shabazz younger brother, Threshold. How's it, mate?
How's it going, guys? Good, bro. How you
I know.
doing?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. Of course, reason why I'm so ecstatic, first and foremost, is that our club is beginning to move in the direction that I've always hope that they move in. I just want us to just jump into it, bro.
hmm
The recruitment of Omer. What's your take on it, man? How do you feel about that recruitment?
So positive,
Yeah.
positive. I feel like this is probably the biggest step in the right direction that we've taken in years.
Hmm.
And how quickly it was done, how kept under wraps. Like it wasn't something, like a transfer saga where for the past three
Yeah.
months everyone is talking about it. It happened just like that. And I've heard really good things about him. I mean,
Yeah.
he was, I think, the CEO of the City Football Group. He was, I think, one of the directors at Barcelona as well. So
Yes.
he's like the right guy, and it seems like our new, well, minority owners in Ineos are making the right appointments. They're doing the right things. So look, it's going to be a long process, but if this is the start and a showing of what's to come, then I'm all for it. 100% all for it.
No, 100%. I fully agree. And another thing is that I mean, who's this guy? Keep forgetting this guy's name. Jim Ratcliffe.
Jim
Yeah.
Ratcliffe, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ratcliffe said we going to hire the best in the business,
hmm
and I feel for us to get the COO of Man City, and of course the City Group has so many clubs. So this man
mm
manages Girona, a team that is currently killing it in La Liga.
mm
We all surprised as to how great that team is. It just shows you that it's someone who actually um, is very well knowledged and experienced in the role
hmm
that he's in. And on top of that, man, what is this? Him also being at Barcelona and having that experience and being at Barca during the period where Iniesta, Xavi, Messi in their prime, bro, just shows you that
mm
we've recruited someone who's elite. And as well, I also feel like it's equivalent to snatching a chain from your rival. I mean,
Exactly, exactly.
City are miles ahead of us as far
Mm,
as their team and club is concerned. Yet we still have that pool. We still have that pool. We still are able to take key individuals from the organization,
mm,
which is another thing that just gives me a lot of hope. And um, another thing is that of course him coming in, there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be axed, of course, because
yeah, 100%, a hundred
yeah,
percent, and
yeah.
that's the right
I
thing.
just want,
That's the
yeah,
right
I just
thing.
wanted us
They have
yeah. You can go.
I feel like the first thing that they needed to do was cut out a lot of these people, because with a
Mm,
lot of these people, they are at fault for a lot of what has happened over the past 10 years. I mean, when you look at things like the Anthony signing, when yes, a waste of money, but if we actually went in for him, I think it was 2 months earlier, the fee would have been 60 million. That's what Ajax
yeah,
quoted. We didn't want to pay that. And then we stalled and stalled and stalled and stalled, and then we ended up paying 80, 82. There's people to blame for that. Yes, it's Ten Hag's fault for IDing him as a player that he wanted, but it's not
yeah,
his fault that he could have been gotten for 20 million cheaper. We've
yeah,
had instances of this. This actually happened. You know what, X? This happened literally the season after Ferguson left with Maro and Fellaini, where earlier
yes,
that summer we could have gotten him for 20 million, which at the time was still a big fee for a midfielder. And then we
yeah,
stalled and stalled and stalled and stalled, and then ended up getting him for 31 million.
yeah,
So it's things like this that need to be brushed out because City aren't doing things like this. Bayern Munich
yeah,
aren't doing things like this. Madrid aren't doing things like this. Liverpool, if they want a player, they get him on the cheapest of cheapest deals. They're not overpaying for anyone. So these are the things that need to be sorted out. I mean, look, our old CEO, Richard Arnold, I'm glad he's gone. He was definitely part of the problem. John Murtaugh as well, our director of football,
yep,
he also part of the problem. He needs to go. And it looks like, this at first, I mean, I'll have to admit, when all of these rumors about the club getting bought, I would have liked Qatar, but I think I was more blinded by the endless sums of money. But I mean, if
Yes.
they didn't have the money to fully buy out the club, where was the money for investment and buying players and upgrading the stadium going to come from? It looks like Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are coming in with the right mentality. I mean, the first thing they did was get rid of everyone who doesn't need to be there. And that's
Yes.
the best thing that they could have done. They're not here to say, okay, we're going to try to sign Mbappe. We're going to try and sign Bellingham. We're going to try and sign Musiala. They're here to bring the right people, the football people, and that's where it's going to start. We can talk about the horrible things that's going on in the pitch, but
Yeah.
until the weeds at the top are out, this football club is never
Yeah.
going to get anywhere.
100%, man. I mean, the last time our club was in order was when David Gill and Sir Alex Ferguson were
Mm,
still at the helm.
mm,
That's when we even were able to unravel gems. I mean, as much as we were like we spent a lot of money. One thing I can't even um fault the Glazers. Hey, tools, you good, mate?
Chance. Good chance. How's it?
Yeah, we
good,
easy,
good.
we easy, we easy, king. Yeah, yeah. As I said, like the Glazers did spend the money, right? But
Hmm.
there was no method in how they spent it. It was just them throwing money at everything. Look at what's happening with Chelsea right now. Chelsea are spending a lot of money. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it's a billion or close to a billion, plus minus a billion, and still they pretty much below us, beneath us, and we're
Hmm.
struggling on the pitch, you know. And I'm just glad that there's now going to be a method in how we purchase players and how we approach players. We wouldn't be surprised when we like from now going on. I don't think I'll ever be surprised with us signing someone who's an unknown and then turns out to
Hmm.
be an amazing signing. I'd like for us to go back to those days, like CR7. CR7 was an unknown kid.
Hmm.
Nani was unknown. Um, who else, man? The list goes on pretty much
Yeah.
with United. The, these guys were unknown and yet they've come and have left a really strong legacy. And then of course, I mean, I also wanted to also um, touch on as far as director of football is concerned. I mean, I've
Mm.
been seeing that's the next appointment that they're trying to get. Who do you like, in your opinion? Maybe you can put me on. You
Ooh,
know,
so I've heard conflicting stories. I've heard Dan Ashworth from Newcastle is one. I've also heard Paul Mitchell, but then from
Mhm.
what I've also heard, it's that Paul Mitchell will come in as more of head of recruitment, and then Dan Ashworth will be, director of football. And you see, the thing is, in a big
Yeah,
football, you have all of these job titles, and everyone could be doing the same thing. Everyone could be doing something different. So look, at the end of the day, it's just someone who has brains. You can't have someone coming in and firing a scattergun approach of just spending and spending and spending like what Chelsea are doing. You can't have that. You need to have someone whose talent ID is there, who is ready to jump on a deal. I mean, with United, we could have gotten Caicedo for 6 million. We could
yeah,
have gotten Bellingham for 20 million. We could have gotten Haaland for 30 million. There was Julian Alvarez for like 16, 17, 18 million. There were so
mm,
many of these players that we could have gotten, but they were either something went wrong in negotiations, or they didn't want to pay a fee, or there was just so many if buts and maybes, and Ed Woodward didn't want to agree to this, or Murta didn't want to agree to that, and we lost a lot of players. And when you think of the players we bought instead of them, Anthony, Mason Mount, like
ish,
it's money that's wasted. It's so much of money that was wasted. So a director of football needs to come in. He needs to be someone with good knowledge. I mean, if you asked me this question a year ago, I would have said Monchi, but he's gone to Aston Villa. I
yeah,
mean, there's just I would take Paul Mitchell. He's very very good at what he does. But I mean, for me, I'm at a point now where I can sit back and say, okay, I trust Ineos to make the right decision. Whoever they
yeah,
bring in, I feel that would be the right decision, given what they've already started doing.
yeah, true. And then tools, just to add you to the discussion, mate. Do you perhaps have any directors of football in mind on your
No, I
end?
don't, man. I don't have a specific guy that I have in mind. Obviously, Paul Mitchell is a big name that's always being linked with the club.
Yeah,
For me, we just need guys at whatever. level, who's gonna do footballing decisions, like good decisions, you
Mm.
know. It's
Yeah.
been too many years where we've been, like you say, buying not the right players, you know. There's no long-term strategy in the way that the club moves, you know. The focus is usually just on commercial deals. So for me, a major thing is that we move from the commercial side of things and start looking at football, because a lot of the decisions that we're making, they're not football based, you know. It's
Yeah.
more about what is what the social media reaction is going to be, or you know, not going to be happy about whatever decision that the clubs makes. And at the end of the day, we're a football club and we need to focus on that.
100%. 100%. Can I give you guys a controversial
Go for it.
individual? I want
Yeah, okay.
I want Ralph Rangnick, bro. I personally want
Oh,
Ralph Rangnick back.
that's a good
Yeah,
one.
and you
That's a
know
very
why?
good one.
On my end, it's because he's already seen the state of the club, so he already
Mm,
understands that it's a shithole. Pretty much, he's seen it
mm,
with his own, and he's even
and
voiced it
he's
out
and he's
publicly.
told us, yeah, he's told us.
Yeah, he's voiced it out publicly. And
Mhm.
then, secondly, when you look at his what he has accomplished, I mean, Red Bull Group, whether it's Salzburg, Leipzig, those two teams are well-oiled machines,
mm,
and he's the man who actually started uh, building that club from the ground, those clubs rather from the ground up. And we've seen recently what Leipzig are doing in the Champions League and the players that they keep bringing in. They constantly bringing in new and
Mhm.
unknown players who turn out to be amazing. I mean, even this guy from Belgium, I think, is it Upende or something? The guy who scored a
Openda,
brace.
yeah.
Openda,
Mm,
sorry, Openda. Yeah, I mean, guy came out of nowhere and he's doing well. So for me, I just think Ralph would it wouldn't our rebuild would be instant with Ralph because he already
mm,
knows what the
So
assignment is. Yeah,
I guess
you can go to.
the obvious question then is, why did it fall apart for him in the first place? You know, because I think
mm,
when we got him, it was so that he can be in that position. You know,
Yeah,
but then obviously we all know what happened. We had to get him in on an interim basis and all of that. I think at the time it's because he had an offer from an international club that he decided to go. Or I'm not sure if the international club poached him after he already decided to leave United. Um,
yeah,
but
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 I
but
think
it's
yeah.
yeah, I'd
Sorry,
like to
sorry.
know why do you think it failed for him the first time around? Why didn't he fulfill that role of being the director of football when we got him just a few months ago,
Yeah,
really, less than 24 months ago?
yeah. Do you want to go first, Trisho? Yeah, you go
I
first.
think it was definitely something to do with the Glazers. Why else has everything failed in the last 18 years at United?
Yeah,
When you think about it, Ragnick came out and he said this club needs open heart surgery. They need eight,
yeah,
10 players to solve this mess. I mean, if knowing the kind of mindset the Glazers have, like none of them would have been happy hearing him say that.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
feel at that point
publicly.
yeah,
they probably already decided, okay, we're gonna bring in whoever the manager was, they were thinking of bringing in, be it Poch or Ten Hag, and we're gonna get rid of this guy. And that seems like what happened because there was the whole thing. I think it's the Austria national team. I think it's them.
yeah. It
Austria, I think
is.
that
Yeah,
It
sounds
is
right.
it,
That
Austria.
sounds
it was
right.
going to be a joint role where he'll be a consultant for United and be their manager. And it's so easy to be a consultant for a club and be an international manager because international breaks are what, once a month. You're
Yeah,
Mm.
not going to have to be there every single day. So I thought, having someone like Ten Hag with Ragnick being the link between him and the board, we would have worked. It would have worked. But
Mm.
maybe it could have been a case of Ragnick wanted too much power. We know the Glazers don't like other people having that power, and they could have just said, "Okay, no, leave. We don't want this." And
Mm.
maybe that's why Ineos have come in and they're like, we want to be in charge of the football operations. We want to bring in our people because clearly everything you've done hasn't worked. And we're not going to
yeah,
be spending like 1.7, 1.8 billion for this 25% and then have our money just blasted. And with the ranking, you're right. He would have sorted it out. Okay, maybe not instantly, but a
yeah.
year, 2 years, all of the
Mm,
bad apples have gone. If he could have said, as an interim mind, not just as a permanent director of football, as an interim manager, to go out there and say, this club needs open heart surgery, that's the kind of balls that you need.
yep. No,
Mm,
100%. I fully agree with you on that, man. It is the sort of ruthlessness we need, because at the
Mm,
end of the day, this is a big club, and of course, standards need to be maintained. And I feel like throughout the years after Fergie, we, even as fans, have allowed the standards to drop to a point
mm,
where we are here saying that Dan James is an incredible player or
mm,
Scott McTominay is an elite player. When you
mm,
look at Man United pre Fergie leaving, the standard was way higher, bro. We had we had more elite players in our squad than average players, whereas
mm,
nowadays we have more average than elite. You know, because
mm,
of course it's like putting uh, a good apple in a bag full of rotten apples.
mm,
Eventually, that apple turns
becomes rotten
it
as
will
well.
rot. It will
mm.
rot as well. And so I feel like that's what has been happening of recent, you know. And I do agree with you as far as the Glazers. I do think the Glazers just they wanted to they wanted Ralph to just be a yes man, similar
Yeah.
to how Ole was moving when he
Mm,
was a manager. And you know, it's I commend Ralph for having the balls to actually call a spade a spade. And
Mm,
yeah, man, hopefully it's now that Ineos are in, you know, they can hear this clip of ours right now, this conversation, and they can, you
they
know, so
listening.
much you know, it's just take our input, because I do think Ralph would excel at United. But of course I do trust Ineos. I mean, them
mm.
making the moves that they've made right now has given me a lot of hope, you know. So yeah. And speaking of our manager, do you guys think our manager is gonna stay? Start with
Bro,
you two.
you were the first person. You were the first person. I can't remember. It must have been October or November that said, "Look, my time is up with this guy." And at the
Yeah.
time, I thought you were really outrageous. But as the weeks have been going by, I'm trying to understand why there's a section of the fan base that are feeling like that. For
Mm,
me, I'm still 100% behind the guy. He's made some really tough calls. Some of them which I'll never forgive him for, like the Cristiano Ronaldo one. For me, that one's going down as one of the hugest travesties I've ever witnessed, and that's that. I know that's a debatable topic,
yeah.
um, but I mean those calls have worked for him for a while. There was a while where he fell out with Cristiano, he fell out with Maguire, and all of this was working. The club was winning games, we're getting points. We made it to a final, two finals and a semi, I think, last season. But this season, it's just fallen apart in the most spectacular fashion. Um, the injuries haven't helped him. Uh, but he also doesn't help himself within the many of the decisions he's making. Sticking with McTominay the way he has,
Mm,
sticking with Anthony the way he has. Um,
Yeah.
I know this is a hot take, but touching on something that what we were speaking about earlier about the club making football decisions. Um, if we were strong about our decision along a matter such as the Mason Greenwood issue, um, we probably don't even buy Anthony. We ride the wave of some social media backlash for a week or two until the guy scores a breaks, and then it's done. But the club was too concerned about things outside of football that the decisions that they're making are really poor. So for me, Ten Hag, I'm still behind him.
Mhm.
He's made a few decisions that make me think, hey, bro, you're not helping yourself. But for now, I can't see us getting somebody, even if it's Zinedine Zidane, who we can just plug in there and everything just works under the current ownership structure and everything that's happening upstairs. I don't think you just plug anybody in there and it works. I think the guy's doing the best that he can out of a very terrible situation,
mm.
and he's not without any criticism as well. But I'm still behind him.
Damn, you're very empathetic. Trico, you
So with me, I agree a lot with what Tool said. He's just making
yeah,
the most of a bad situation, but there is a lot to criticize. I'm not saying I'm Ten Hag out. I mean, the guy won us our first trophy in 6 years and got us third place. It's something that we can't forget. But I mean, when you look at the decisions that he's been making, for me, I feel like should everything go to plan with Ineos bringing in their people, I think he has to have the transfer responsibility taken away from him. because his transfers have been more missed than hit. But
Yeah.
before I can get to the transfers, I mean, when it comes to things on the pitch, I mean, injuries haven't helped. Martinez has been injured. Casemiro has been injured. Martial, I don't know what even Martial is doing anymore. You
Ish.
know, we had so many. Varane has been injured. We've been playing a 35-year-old who got relegated, who was released from his contract, who wasn't good enough for the team that got relegated. Yes, he's a United boy. He's won
Mm,
our Champions League. He's won our leagues with us. He was there. He's a United boy. But this is not a friends situation. This is not a job for the boys. You know, it's not that
Yes.
kind of where he should be our starting centre back in a game against Manchester City at home. But then it's things like Ten Hag's tactics. What is he doing playing Bruno on the right wing?
mm,
Bruno Fernandes is our best player. You play him at 10, you let him have a free role. You play him next to the striker, behind the striker, you let him have a free role. What is he doing playing Bruno on the right? What is he doing playing McTominay at 10 and Bruno at 8? What is that? There was a
Mm.
game against Brighton when Bruno Fernandes was our deepest centre back. What is he trying there?
mhm.
Then to come to our transfers, why was Mason Mount bought? I said this the other time when we were doing the tier list. What was the point of Mason Mount?
Mm.
65 million on a player that's played 7 games for us, and it's the end of January. X2s. I mean, guys, what was the reason for him? He's he's a much worse Bruno.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything. When we played him, he hasn't done anything. He wins the
Yeah.
ball, he loses the ball. He wins the ball. If that was what we were paying for him, give McTominay a new contract. If that's all that Mason Mount was brought in to do, save 65 million, bring him in. The other thing that I criticized Ten Hag for was letting De Gea leave on a free and bring in an
Bro.
Onana. You know what?
Hey, that
Come
one.
on.
That one,
55.
man.
You guys are watching the AFCON. He's benched by Cameroon. He has the worst save percentage in AFCON of 0%. A goalkeeper having 0% in his nation's biggest tournament. And this is the goalkeeper that people said was supposed to come in and be this ball playing goalkeeper that was supposed to solve all of our issues. We could play a high line. For me, it was like, yes, De Gea had a mistake in it. But what even is Onana? De Gea would make saves that would keep us 3 points by himself. I can only remember one big moment that Onana had, and that was the penalty save against Copenhagen at home. But
Yes.
think about everything else that Onana has done. He single-handedly cost us Champions League knockout place. Single-handedly, you think to the Galatasaray game when he practically saved the ball into the net. You think about the Bayern game where he did that twice. He's I mean, X tools. I've heard this thing where he's supposed to be this elite ball playing goalkeeper. He isn't.
I
He
haven't seen
isn't.
it, bro.
I haven't seen it either. Onana,
No.
and when you look at it, Onana 50, 55 million, Mason Mount 60, 65 million. Look, Hoyland is a kid, 21,
Yeah.
22 years old, but you don't spend 72 million on a kid that only scored 9 goals last season. You take away all of that, that's what, 160, 170 million. That's Harry Kane.
Mm,
Yeah.
That's Harry Kane. You keep De Gea. That's Harry Kane. That's David De Gea. We have probably the best striker next to Haaland in the world. We have a top goalkeeper. We
Mm.
don't have Mason Mount. It's not, like you can make an argument for Mount. He hasn't played. He hasn't done anything to warrant that kind of fee, and that's where I criticize Ten Hag because why was he so demanding of these players when they haven't done anything?
mm,
And when you look at his tactics, the way he played, it's a complete night and day from last season. There's no control. There's absolutely no control. There's no intensity. It's like, I mean, when you think back to Solskjaer, it was under Solskjaer was give the ball to Bruno and hope for the best. And Bruno delivered week in, week out, and that's what kept Solskjaer his job for so long. But then Ten Hag, like Truth said, the Ronaldo thing was a farce. The Sancho thing was a farce. I mean, with Sancho, stuck by Ten Hag because you could see Sancho just wasn't interested in anything. He wasn't.
Yeah.
But with
Oh,
this, it's a
Yeah.
situation where I'm gonna back him to the end of the season. If he gets fourth, I'll back him. If he doesn't get fourth, then I will start asking questions. But
Yeah.
at this point, it's we have to wait for our injured players to come back, and then we
yeah,
can have a conversation.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I for one, of course, I hear you guys out. I'm Tinak out. And
Mm.
you've pretty much summarized everything that I was gonna say about him. But at the same time, man management is another thing that I worry about Ten Hag. It's Imagine Ten Hag at Real Madrid
Mm.
dealing with Jude, dealing with Vinicius, dealing with guys who have so many trophies. That team, majority of that team has won the Champions League
And
more than once. You see what I'm saying?
then you got
So imagine,
Fiorentino on top saying you're not messing with these boys. You know what I
you
mean?
see what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mm.
It would be much more difficult for him to deal with egos because that's another thing. When you're managing a top club, you are gonna have egos in the change room.
Mm.
If you're gonna be, I do believe all these elite players to some degree they have an ego to some degree. Of course, there's levels. I mean,
Yeah.
CR7 being the ultimate level, but if you're dealing with even especially these youngsters like Vinny, Vinny has scored in a Champions League final that Madrid won, and
Mm.
of course, if a player like Vinny, who is accomplished, questions your tactics, and then you become upset and decide to ostracize the player, it will create friction amongst the other players, especially his mates. And I also believe even
Mm.
with David De Gea, how we handled David De Gea's situation
Exit.
also dented the squad's morale completely
Mm.
because we just did a player who served us for more than 10 years, right?
Mm.
He was due a
12.
testimony. 12, listen to that. And we
He was
just let him
carrying
go
us.
like,
Mm.
He's been
yeah,
carrying us for most of the post for Sir
100%.
Alex era. He's been the guy carrying us,
100%.
keeping us out of
And
the bottom half.
Mm.
yeah, and 100%. And so I feel like there are some players who felt some type of way, especially those that have like a Casemiro. I do believe that there's some sort of friction between the two guys because of
Mm.
how it was handled, and even the captaincy for Bruno. I know, Trishal, you are a fan of Bruno, but I believe captain should be selected by his peers within the change
Mm.
room and not necessarily the
Mhm.
manager
Mhm.
because it's the players who they'll usually select a person that they really respect in the change room. And I, for one, don't think Bruno is and Maguire are two guys that are respected within the change room. That's
Mm.
just my
Mhm.
opinion.
Mm.
But hey, as much as I want Ten Hag out, I do want Man United to succeed. And so I want him to prove me wrong. Moral of the
Mm.
story. I want the man to
Mm.
just prove me wrong, and say, you know what, X, look what I've done. That's pretty much what I want. But I just question his man management, man. And I also believe, as much as Sancho's at Dortmund, I believe Ineos are not gonna let go of Sancho. And that's just my opinion. I don't think Sancho's gonna be let go of. And so if Ten Hag is gonna stay and Sancho returns, I mean Sancho's English on top of that. That's another thing that also adds a bit of value within him. There's gonna be a situation where there'll be a bit of friction that okay, you guys are pretty much backing a player that doesn't obey me, that disobeys me and doesn't believe in my tactics. You see, so hey, it's gonna be tricky, man. It's gonna be tricky, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Man management is a big one for this guy because I mean, like we said, it's Ronaldo, it's Maguire, and this season, um,
Yeah.
falling out with Sancho was for me his fault. We all knew
Yeah.
that Sancho had some issues. He's been sent away on the sabbatical and whatever, but I never knew that there was issues with him training or anything like that until Ten Hag said it. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
I actually knew nothing about the situation until Ten Hag said this guy's not training or whatever he said. So
Mhm.
I really blame Ten Hag for bringing us into that space, and making a situation where Sancho feels like he needed to defend himself, which is also wrong. But I do blame Ten Hag for starting that whole thing. I do feel like there's a fallout between Varane and him, like you say. Not
Yeah.
Varane, Casemiro, and I would want to add Varane to that list as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the senior players were looking at what happened to Big Dave. Like, what the hell was that? Um, this guy's been carrying us for so long. He won the Golden Glove last season. Um,
Exactly.
and even if you decide to let him go, are we not gonna do anything? Are we not gonna have a match where we know he's leaving? It's the last game of the season. We take him off on the 89th minute, and at least we give him a round of applause. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There was
Mm.
absolutely nothing for De Gea. Like, It literally happened in the middle of the season break, and then he's just gone. There was unforgivable. And I want to just touch on the injury situation. Last season, a lot of such success that we had was coming through the middle. Um, um, De Gea, Martinez, Varane, Casemiro, and Ericsson. That was the core of the squad. And if you look at
Yeah.
this season, all of those guys have been gone. Varane
Mm,
has been injured for most of the season. He's only just come back really. Ericsson's only been available for about a month or so now. Um, Casemiro hasn't played for I don't know how many months, and Martinez played his first game I think last week or something like that. So we have to just take all of this with a little bit of with a pinch of salt, because I don't think Hoyland struggles as much as he's struggling now. If we had the core that we had last season
mm,
performing the way that they were performing last season,
100%.
I think we get a bit more out of Rashford, and I actually don't want to talk about Anthony. But I just feel like the guys that we brought in would be looking much better if the core of the squad was still around, competing for positions and just making it competitive in the training grounds.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I fully agree. I fully agree with what you're saying. And yeah, man, at the end of the day, guys, I mean, we all want United to do well. As much as you
mm,
guys are Ten Hag in and I'm out, I want the team to flourish at the end of the day. With or without Ten Hag, the team has to do well, and we have to get back to being competitive. None of this thing of one season we do well and then the following season we tank.
Mm,
It's very it messes with your emotions. Because at the beginning of the season we all had higher expectations.
ooh,
And of
mm.
course how things have panned out, eish, the expectations are not the same, guys. And I just want to just quickly share my screen. Just please bear with me. Um,
while you're loading up
yeah,
that, okay, it's already there.
yeah. Do you guys see the screen? As you can see.
Mm.
Oh, sorry,
I do
Benzema.
like this. I
Yeah,
do
how do
like
you guys feel about this?
the first time
Yeah,
seeing this.
yeah. Mm.
How do you bench this guy? That's the question. If he's there, are we not going to have the same situation that we had with Ronaldo when Ten Hag was dropping Ronaldo and we're sitting there like, bro, you've
Mm,
got Ronaldo on the bench. What the hell is this? Um, I don't know. I don't know if doing something like this slows Hoyland's progress down. Does it add anything to what he's doing? I do think it will make all our other players wake up. I don't know if you remember the time that Suarez was playing at Liverpool. There's something that happened when he left where I feel like everybody else's level dropped. And I think he was just so good that he demanded everybody else to be that much better. And I
mm,
feel like a player like Karim Benzema, if you bring a player like that into your squad, a player that everybody knows, if you give him the ball in the box, 80% something good's gonna come out of that. We are struggling to find our striker. I think getting a guy like Benzema into the number 9 position forces everybody to kind of channel everything into that direction. So that's really good, but does it slow Hoyland down? Because I really like Hoyland. Hoyland passes all the eye tests for me. Um, so yeah, this is a very difficult one. I mean, I just saw this now for the first time, and it's really interesting. But I really don't know. Hey, I really don't know.
Yeah. And your take, Threshold? Do you?
So I would take it because for me it's like Hoyland, yes, he passes the eye test and there's a player there. There's a
Yeah,
100% there's a player there that is going to be world class one day, but he needs someone to carry his weight with him. You cannot let
Mm,
someone like that young. Like people say, oh, he's 21, he's 22, he's been in the game. No, for a striker, that's young. That's
mm,
young. Strikers peak when they're 26, 27. Bring in someone like Benzema who's going to be there, who's going to be like, look, stay with me after training. Let me show you this. Let me teach you this. If you need to talk
yeah,
about something, and that's the kind of person Benzema is. Benzema can lead the attack in the front.
mm,
But the thing is, with Benzema, my worry is the wages, whether Ineos would
yeah.
pay whatever he's on, even if it's a cut wage, and his injuries. Because for him to come in, okay, let's just call it 500K a week. give or take, and then he gets injured for 3 weeks. That's not gonna be a good thing because 3 weeks is a long time when there's only 5 months left of the season. Whether or not he can save our season, I think we would need a bit more than Karim Benzema, but it's a start. I would take him, and I feel like he's the kind of player where he can link the midfield to the attack just by
Mm.
himself because that's the player he is. But
Yeah,
there are red flags. There are red flags, and like Chul said, if he gets benched and he starts an issue with Ten Hag, then what? Then what do
mm,
we do? Does he go back? Does the loan get cancelled? Does he go back? Then we're left without a main striker, and Hoyland is thrown back into the spotlight. Does he just say, okay, you know what? I'm here on 6 months. I'm here on a 6 month vacation. I'm not going to work hard. I'm just going to get my paycheck, screw around, take a shot here and there on the pitch, and then take my paycheck and
yeah,
then leave at the end of the season. You know what? Is that the kind of mentality he'll have once he gets dropped? And that's why there's always going to be red flags. He's also 36, 37, whatever he is. Is the
yeah,
Premier League going to be too much for him at that age?
yeah.
It's
Those,
it's a
those are
question.
good
I would
points.
take him. I would, but under the right
Yeah,
circumstances.
yeah, 100%. And another thing is as well. Remember, he's friends with Varane and Casemiro,
Mm,
and those two
Mm.
guys aren't really vibing with the coach. You know, of
Exactly.
course, yeah, they'll tell him, hey, bro, this guy here, ish. You know, you know, and of course, another thing is that like as I've mentioned about the captaincy bit, you know, when he pulls through, will he be willing to take instructions from Bruno? You know, like
mm,
you see, that's another thing with our club, man. Like our change room, too many egos. And another thing is, I just, of course, wanna just go off track a bit. It's like even the awarding of jersey numbers, man. Like how would you feel if you are a player like Sancho and Mount comes in and they give Mount a number 7? We all know footballers are superstitious. Numbers really do matter. You know, like the jersey numbers, they take it seriously. It's also part of their brand. And
How much the
even
club
with
values you as well.
mm,
exactly, it's like even the number 10 as well. How we gave Rashford the number 10. We get it. Rashford is from United, is from Manchester rather, but he hasn't done anything to warrant
mm,
to receive that jersey. That jersey is a very valuable jersey. The player who was wearing that jersey before he got it
Master
is
Wayne.
our all-time top goal scorer, bro. You know what I mean? He's a guy who used to take us out of tough situations. At times, it single-handedly win us games. I remember when we played AC Milan in the Champions League, and I think we
oh,
beat them 4-1 on aggregate. That AC Milan that had Ronaldinho, that had Pirlo, Beckham, and we beat them 4-1, and that's all because of the performance from Rooney on how clutch he was and how he
mm,
carried us over the line. That Champions League campaign, the 2011 one where we reached the final, that
We
one,
lost to
bro, like I
Barcelona.
don't know how we got there. Like literally, I did not know how we reached the final.
that was
You know,
just Rooney and Hernandez. That was
see what
all
I'm
Rooney
saying?
and Hernandez.
Is that the one we
Yeah,
lost to Barcelona, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
the
three
second
one.
time, yeah.
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 But I mean, no one anticipated us to even put up a title charge, even, bro. It
Mm,
was a very yeah, it was a very that squad for me wasn't even a strong squad, but yet we were able to get to the final. So for me, even that, um, I would take Benzema, of course. I'm a huge Benzema fan. French, I support the French. That's my European team right there, and I've always rated Benzema, even from his Lyon days. I've always thought he's an exceptional baller, and I'd take him as well. And hopefully he can um, instill some belief within Hoyland, because there is a player in Hoyland. I also think there is a player. It's just that he's not being coached, in my opinion.
yeah.
At times, as a manager, you need to come in and set the tone and explain to the player that don't when you receive the ball, don't receive it in this manner. Rather receive it in that. It opens up the angle for you to shoot. Stuff like that. At times, you need to teach players, and so I think maybe Uncle Ben's, with that would come in and assist. And Yeah, we've got a comment from your brother, Threshold.
Yeah,
You know,
let's not talk about that final.
Let's
let's
not,
not.
let's
Yeah,
not, let's not. That was a
yeah, let's not
terrible
talk
day.
about it. Yeah, it was a terrible day, but I was just making just an example.
Wayne Rooney was very good on that night. I was
Mm,
watching the highlights to that game. Well, not the highlights, but they were focusing on his performance on the night, and he was probably the only positive thing happening
Yeah,
for United on the night. He
mm.
was really, really world class on the day. It's a pity that we lost that game, but I mean, that
yeah,
that Barcelona team was at a level that I think is comparable, if not better, than this Man City team that we're seeing now.
Mm.
yeah, 100%, bro,
Mm.
100%. And yeah, man. Hopefully, things can change, especially for our club, man. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add because that's pretty much what I planned the show around thus far. Because there's not much Premier League games. The games that took place
Yeah.
over the week. Yeah, it's small teams such as Liverpool. You know,
Yeah, those little ones.
yeah, and we
I
don't
think
really want
like
to talk about Liverpool. Yeah,
on the discussion on Ten Hag,
yeah,
it's a wait and see. Like
hmm
I think there is the right manager there, and there's just been so much going on. He came into a toxic environment and I mean, you remember last summer, we went from May was Frankie de Jong. We want Frankie de Jong, get me Frankie de Jong. I need Frankie de Jong. He didn't get Frankie de Jong.
Mm.
There was so many, he wanted Timber, he didn't get Timber. There were so
yeah,
many players that he wanted that he didn't get. I mean, you can use that as an excuse, but then you can also say when you look at Anthony, when you look at Mount, and and then Onana, it's just a waste of money. So we need someone to come in and just sort that out. But I feel like tactically, just play your best players in their best position. It's
Mm.
not that.
yeah,
I mean,
Look,
we've got Garnacho on the right now, and he's been playing well. Play Garnacho on the right. There's no Anthony for me. He scored one goal in a year, guys. There's no player there. Like with Hoyland, yes, he's struggling. I feel like he lacks that striker sort of instinct and positioning, but that will
yeah,
come. With Anthony, there's nothing there. With Bruno, what, like the captaincy debate is there because what, I've heard the argument of when he didn't have the armband, he was probably one of the best midfielders in the world. I still think he is, but when Bruno looks behind him and you've got McTominay, like which creative midfielder is and the thing is with
and
Bruno, he has to do two players' jobs. He has to do the creator's job, and then when McTominay or whoever else loses the ball, he's the one running back. You've got
mm,
Rashford running back. Sometimes I've seen Hoyland doing the running back, and that's supposed to be McTominay's job. And for
yeah,
me, it's just play when Casemiro's fit, just play Casemiro, Menu, and Bruno.
yeah.
Let Bruno
That's
have the freedom.
perfect.
Let
yeah,
Casemiro pick up, do the hard work. Let Menu develop because that boy is going to be a star. And
Mm,
just play your best players in the right position. If Bruno Fernandes can have that 10 position where he can create free. I mean, right now, I think it
hmm
was in the, the Premier League released these stats for 2023. He created the most chances in European football, I'm pretty sure. But there wasn't a striker to finish that off. He had
yeah,
Weghorst in the first half, and he's had an unfit and unfiring Hoyland in the second half. You give him Benzema. Give him that. Give someone
Yeah,
like Garnacho and Rashford someone to cross to. Give Casemiro someone to work, someone he's familiar with. They were close at Madrid. They won Champions League after Champions League at Madrid. Bring that back. Even if they only lost this season, because Casemiro is also on his last legs as well. Varane too. I don't I don't think we keep Varane and Casemiro for another season after this because injuries, they're old now. The wages too. I don't think Ineos are gonna want to be paying them 350, 375 a week. So let them have the 6 months. Let Ten Hag have the 6 months, and then end of the season. I feel like if he gets Champions League, let him have next season. But if he doesn't, especially the way the season might end, then I think questions do need to be asked. Like I said, I'm not Ten Hag out, but I'm not going to sit here and fight a war and defend him and everything like that. Definitely not.
mm.
no, indeed, indeed, indeed. I fully agree, man, with everything you've said. Yeah, Tools, did you want to say something?
Yeah, man. The big thing for me is the situation in midfield.
Mhm.
Mm,
I think it's quite shocking, and but we've seen this a lot, where Amr, like for example, Amrabat hasn't been available for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
I don't know what the situation. He's been injured, ill, whatever. But the Afcon starts and he's on the starting lineup. Like what's going on there? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's strange for me because that was a question that I was having for myself every time we're playing McTominay. You know. Um, and I
Yeah.
think Amrabat could have saved us a bit there. But I want to talk about this guy Mainu because I'm
Yeah.
really excited about him. Since
Mm,
Sir Alex left, one thing I've been critical about this club is that why do we play two deep lying midfielders every
mm,
single time? Whether we're playing Man City, Barcelona, West Brom, or even Huddersfield. We're playing two holding midfielders, and I don't understand why. And one thing that I've noticed from Mainu, which I've never seen from Schweinsteiger, Schneiderlin, Herrera, all of these midfielders that we've been through, um, is that he kind of even if Casemiro doesn't do this, he kind of makes himself a pivot and tucks himself between the two centre backs, tries to make sure everything's safe, and then slowly works his way across along the field. You know, and what I think that will do is allow us to play with one deep lying midfielder in some games and and employ two creative midfielders,
mm,
which will allow us to be more fluid with what we're doing. Because there's a time where I was having a chat with some mates, and as much as Haaland is doing so well, I don't think if you swap Haaland for Hoyland, the numbers change much. I think
mm,
if you put Hoyland in that Man City team, he scores some close to as much goals as Haaland is scoring. And if you bring Haaland to United, he scores close to as much goals as what Hoyland is scoring at United because
mm,
we're not doing enough for our striker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saw that the Hoyland gets like he got like 5 passes out of 6 games from Anthony and 5 passes in 5 games from Ganacho, and that's unacceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we definitely need to look at what's happening in the midfield. It's been an issue for so many years. We've had Fellaini, we've had all of these guys in midfield, and we haven't been able to have a recruitment strategy where we're getting a similar player that's going to do something continuous that the wingers, the centre backs, the wing backs can kind of know this is what our midfield wants to do. You know, our midfield is a very big issue for me.
Yeah, it is. And as well, just to add, ball retention for me is a big issue.
oh
Mostly,
yeah.
that's where we very vulnerable, and that's my biggest criticism of Bruno, ball
Mm,
retention. Because for me, the number tens that I grew up watching were very good on the ball, and so for me, that's that's why I like the combination of Casemiro, Kobe Mainu, and Bruno. Because at least from a ball retention standpoint, I'd say Kobe is better than than Cass at holding
Then
on to
yeah.
the
Cass,
ball.
hundred
100%.
Yeah,
percent,
Yeah.
you see what I'm
100%.
saying?
100%.
And this would also, I personally think Cass is box to box. I think Cass is more dangerous going forward, in my opinion.
Mm,
The guy has
we
goals in
saw
him.
that last season. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the most goals from midfield, right, last season,
Hmm.
Mm,
Hmm.
and crucial goals. Whether it's headers from, even like in even the League Cup final, he scored the header. It was the
Hmm.
opening
mhm,
goal, right? Yeah,
yeah.
so he is a threat offensively, and so having Mainu sit and be the first phase player, the one that receives the ball from defense because he's very good on the ball, very composed, and having Bruno just, of course, from a leadership standpoint, not Bruno, sorry, Casemiro, just be not necessarily an advanced eight, but just be an eight. Not
Slightly, yeah.
that
Mm,
doesn't, yeah, that doesn't bomb up like a KDB per se. I think we would be far better off. And then of course Bruno, one strength of Bruno is that he's very direct.
mm,
I was watching this other podcast where they were comparing him and Odegaard. Odegaard is very tidy on the ball, but from a direct from being direct, he's not as direct as Bruno. Bruno is
mm,
is extremely direct, and that's also a pro, and that's the reason why his numbers are so great. And
mm,
I do give him props on that. That at least when he's in front of goal, he goes for it, or he will try to get
He
an
looks for
assist
something.
immediately and release the
mm,
ball. And it has helped us a lot in many games, especially when we're playing against teams that play a high line. I think that's where Bruno really excels. It's just for me, I just think that they are far, especially when you look at our club, Man United. I just believe that we should be getting even better players than
Mm.
what we currently have. That's just my opinion. But yeah,
There's a lot. You know what?
yeah,
There's so many places to improve.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the thing is, we can sit here and we can make a list of 10 players that will cost this much. But when
yeah,
you're wasting 120 million on two players that haven't done anything, that's where the problem is.
Ish.
And
Mm.
not
Yeah,
like to this day, like look, I was a De Gea fanboy. I'm not afraid to admit it. But when a guy single-handedly keeps you relevant for years after
Mm.
Ferguson,
Mm.
there was a point, I think it was under Moyes and then Van Gaal, where he probably kept us out of the bottom half of the table by himself.
By
You know,
himself.
I still look back to that game in 2017 against Arsenal when I
Arsenal.
think we won 3-1,
I knew you were going
when
there.
he made 12 saves and probably one of the best saves I've ever seen in my life, where he dove onto the floor and saved it and picked it up. And by the time he got up, Sanchez got the ball and Sanchez shot. And in that split second, he stood up and still saved it with his leg on the other side.
yeah,
That's
And
not human. That's not human.
Sanchez spiked the ground. Like, what the hell am I dealing with
Yeah.
here? He was so
And
frustrated.
that's the kind of player they let go, and not even for 10, 20, 30 million for
For
free,
free.
for
and then
free.
replace him with someone who just I don't get what Onana is. And it's not even like Onana is 21, 22, he's 27, 28. Is that going to be another problem that Ineos need to fix? Is that another 60 million problem that needs to be fixed in June, July, August? Is Mason Mount another player that 67 to center mids box to box, they're not going to be cheap. They're not going to be cheap. Goalkeepers are not going to be cheap. You can't go and get an unknown goalkeeper for 10 million, because if he makes one mistake, his confidence is gone.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
So it's a problem. It is a problem. I mean, like with Bruno, he's gonna be 30 in September. I feel like he wasted his best years.
Bro.
mm,
He
ish.
his best years were, like, I mean, Tools even mentioned it after Ferguson. We're playing two CDMs. When we had two CDMs, it caused Bruno to play as a second striker. That's when he was getting his goals and assists.
Mm.
Ever since the later years of Solskjaer, when he got fired, and then when Ten Hag's come in, Bruno's been dropped deeper. Bruno's been playing on the right. Then we're getting
Properly.
yeah, with Rashford. I mean, I can't stand Rashford personally. Yes, the guy scored, what is it, 30 goals last season, but look at him this season. The guy
Yeah,
gets the ball, runs into traffic, and then
You can't dribble.
just complains. Yeah,
yeah,
loses the ball and then just stands,
yeah.
throws his arms, doesn't chase back, pulls his face, and he hasn't done anything this season to warrant the contract that he just got recently. That's another
Yo,
mistake.
dude,
There's
even
just we
yo,
can go on for hours and hours and hours about what's wrong here, but I think
yeah.
for us, I mean, like we talked about at the start, X Tools, you and here, unfortunately, but we've got in Omer Berrada now. We just need to get in a proper director of football, maybe a change of manager, but I don't see who's going to come in. But I think we just have to leave it in the hands of Ineos now, and then just see what happens when it comes time for the transfer window.
I know 100%.
Mm.
Especially you just touched on a topic that's also very sensitive. The money situation, man. Like the
Mm,
way we just we pretty much Oprah Winfrey, bro. We just handing out
mm,
Mm.
contracts to
Ridiculous.
players and exorbitant contracts. I'd like for our club to be a team where players come because they know
They want to
this
play
team
for the
historic.
badge.
mm,
Exactly. Historically, we are an exceptional team, and they wanna build legacies rather than coming here for retirement, because it seems as if a lot of these guys now just come here and get their money, which is also another issue that I have with the sort of players that we sign. Yes, it's all dope signing someone who comes from a team that's won a lot of trophies, but at the same time, you have to look at that person's intentions. Just feel
Mm.
like it's like for any job. When you are interviewed, they look at whether you suit the culture of the business. Yes, you may
Mm.
have
mm.
the skill set, right? But can you get along with tools? Can you get along with Trisha? Are you a good person? Are you a good individual? I think those are other things that going on. Hopefully, our team can start doing, and I believe they will. I believe they will. You know, yeah, man. Don't know what else you guys want to add. Just feel like,
Like we might turn this into a part two if we carry on
yeah,
going on.
Yeah, yeah, it
How
exactly,
will
much
go on
how
forever,
much
man.
there's wrong
exactly.
with this?
Exactly. But like on my end, gents, I just wanna start having United convos,
Yep,
especially
Mm.
like around on Wednesdays, and it would be nice if maybe you know I'll share invites to you two as well because you guys support United. But I do have a few other mates who are also keen on hopping on, and it'll be nice, especially the next episode. I'm thinking of doing a tier maker of ins and outs where we will
sure.
discuss as
Yeah.
to who you see, just to make it
That'll be
more
hard.
interesting and more fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much once again for availing yourselves, guys. Guys, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel. Help the guy out.
yeah,
Help a
man.
brother out. I said, please.
Sure.
This is
Thanks,
Team
Ace.
Sport, and we out. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.